Hey, this is W.7. Solve one-step equations, okay? One-step equations. Uh, I need to back up a lot just to make sure that we're all on the same page. All right, the key for solving a one-step equation, right, is first we need to use what we call the inverse operation. All right, inverse, if you have forgotten, it means the opposite. Opposite, right? Inverse means the opposite. And then need to balance the equation. And then finally, we just solve it, all right? So I want to make sure we're all super clear on this. And I don't want to insult your intelligence, but just make sure we're all on the same page. If we have an addition problem, the opposite is subtraction. And then if we have a multiplication problem, then the opposite is division, okay? So these are what we call opposite pairs: addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. I actually don't think I should be using an equal sign for that because they're not equal, they're just pairs. So let me do a little slash between them, okay? All right, so let's look at the first example here. And it says solve for the letter P. 17 equals P plus 2, all right? So the opposite of plus 2 is a minus 2. All right, so there's your inverse operation. We're going to balance the equation because it's equal. Then we're going to have to do both sides because that's fair. It's equal. So we do it on the right side. Now we're going to have to do it on the left side. All right, what I like to do, though, is put a big equal sign down there. Make sure that we line up our equal sign and drop it down. And now let's solve the left side of the equation. So left side, we have 17 minus 2 is 15. On the right side, we got P. P comes straight down. And then positive 2 minus 2 is 0. We'll cross that out. 15 equals P. And if you want to check your answer, just put your answer back into the equation. 17 equals P plus 2. Does 15 plus 2 equal 17? Yes, it does. You know that your answer is correct. All right, I love solving equations because it's so easy to check your answer. All right, let's look at this next one, where we got solve for G. 2 equals G minus 5. Here's a subtraction problem, so do the opposite of minus, so we're going to add 5. Do it on both sides. 2 plus 5 is 7. The equal sign comes straight down. G comes straight down. Negative 5, positive 5 is 0. So cross that out. 7 equals G. You want to check that? 7 minus 5 equals, put 7 back up in there. 7 minus 5 equals 2. So that works. All right. Here I chose one that's a little weird. By weird, I mean there's a positive and a negative. B plus negative 1 equals 17. And I personally don't like the way that this problem's written. I'm still using this as an example because you will see things like this. But in my mind, when I see a plus, when you add a negative number, that is going to be the same thing as just subtracting that number. Okay? So I'm going to rewrite the equation. Instead of plus a negative 1, I'm just going to say minus 1. A minus 1 is the same as a negative 1. All right, so b minus 1 equals 17. Instead of minus 1, we're going to add 1 on both sides. B comes straight down. Minus 1 plus 1 is 0. The equal sign comes straight down. 17 plus 1 is 18. All right. Some students, you may not like that I rewrote the problem. So I'm just going to prove to you that when I rewrite the problem, it makes more sense to me. And I'm allowed to do it because this answer right here, 18, I'm going to check it by putting it to the original equation. All right, there's the original equation, b plus a negative 1. So let's do b plus oops, I actually didn't even substitute b yet. So 18 is b, so I'm going to put 18 in there. 18 plus a negative 1. All right, let's see. Even if we look at our calculator, 18 plus a negative 1, and it's going to equal 17. So it works to rewrite the equation in an easier way if that makes sense to you. And for me, I personally don't like seeing this stuff, a plus and negative. It's like seeing two signs next to each other. I mean, it's okay, but if I were to solve it, it just makes more sense to rewrite it as b minus a 1 instead of b plus a negative 1. All right, and that only works if you have a plus a negative number. If you're going to add a negative number, it's the same thing as subtracting that number. Because a negative and a subtraction is, you can think of it as very similar, it's the same. All right, so here is a division problem here. Negative 16 equals p divided by 20. I'm actually going to rewrite this so I have a little bit more space. And this is a division problem here. So the opposite of division is multiplication. So here on the right side, I see p divided by 20. So opposite of divide by 20 is multiply by 20. And I like to use parentheses, right? So we're going to multiply by 20 on both sides, right? So on the left side, we have 20 times a negative 16. It does look like 20 minus 16, but remember we're putting 20 in parentheses because it means multiplication. You can actually put a dot if you want there because we're multiplying 20 on both sides. 20 times a negative 16. It's kind of a big number, so it's okay to pull up a calculator. So I'm going to type 20 times 16 and make that 16 a negative. It's going to be a negative 320. Yes, and I know some students will do that using mental math, and that's totally okay, as long as you're very careful with it. So the left side is negative 320. The right side, well, I have divided by 20, multiplied by 20. And that's going to cancel itself out. So we just have p left over. So p equals negative 320. All right. I know this is all review. You've been solving one-step equations. You've been solving equations in 6th grade. But it's one of those skills that are just crucial for you to have mastered so that you can get into higher level algebra. And I kind of noticed that I did not have a multiplication problem here. So let's create a multiplication example real fast. Let's do 4x equals 64. All right. So it says 4 times a number equals 64. If I didn't use x, I could use m. 4 times a number equals 64. Any letter will work. We like to use the letter x a lot, even though x looks like the multiplication symbol, and that's why we start using dots or parentheses instead to signify multiplication. So this 4 times a number equals 64. The opposite of times is divide, so we're going to divide by 4 on both sides. So 4 divided by 4 cancels out, so we have x equals 64 divided by 4, and that should equal 16. Yes, it does equal 16 there. And there we have gone over every type of example for a one-step equation. All right, good luck, and make sure that you're working on these assignments for this week. You do have 3 assignments. They're pretty much review. Just take your time, but make sure that you're using the time to complete these assignments. All right. Good luck.